It's beautiful, right? Yeah. Well, this year, actually, I sometimes find myself, I've been feeling quite like a Scrooge. Usually I love the Christmas season. It's my favorite time of year. My partner, Brian, who's not a Christmas person, but not a Christmas person. You know, the Christmas people. That's me. Okay? I'm like, candles and all the things. And, but this year, not so much. I kind of, for whatever reason, I just couldn't really get into it. I think it was 2 weeks ago, 2 Sundays ago I preached. 3 Sundays ago I preached. And I got grouchy about the words comfort and joy in God Bless Ye, Merry Gentlefolk. It's like, comfort? We don't need comfort. I won't get into that. But today I also was thinking about, I don't know if you noticed in O Come All Ye Faithful, joyful and triumphant. Maybe you weren't reading the words in your bulletin, but it says exultant. Exultant. We changed it because really triumphant to me says something almost militaristic. And I thought, well, if this is about love, are we really about conquering right now? Let's change it to exultant. And I think that there's something about what's happening in the world right now that's making me a bit suspicious about triumph, about this kind of really open, like flaunting of triumph. But it's a little Scrooge-like, right? Nobody wants to hear this on Christmas Eve. We can tend to approach Christmas as a really pretty story. We get a little nostalgic about it. The star in the sky, the cradle in the barn, and it's comforting and it's beautiful and it's cozy and it helps us get through the season of long nights. But I also think that when we just let it carry us through this season of long nights, when we approach it with nostalgia and with comfort, we can miss something really important that it's offering us. One of those things that I'll start to offer is about the word ponder. This word pondering. I've always loved this verse where Mary keeps all of these things and she ponders them in her heart. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil this thing. Hopefully I'll deepen it though. But I always thought about it as this very peaceful kind of pondering, kind of meditative, maybe even a little bit kind of docile. And I realized that I questioned that. There are a lot of children in this room today. Yes. And anyone who has spent time with a newborn knows that it's not necessarily a super peaceful, docile time. Right? There's also, yeah. There's a lot of sweetness. There's a lot of sleeping that the baby does. Right? A lot of around-the-clock sleeping, but not a lot of sleeping in long lengths. There's crying, and there's a lot of, for the adults, integration. New stuff is happening, and we are figuring this out. When my child, Connell, was 8 days old, I sat on the sofa in our living room, and he was sleeping, and I was looking into his face. And I was like drinking in his tiny, beautiful face, like it was the purest, cleanest mountain water that was just coming down a glacial waterfall from Mount Hood. I was so in love. I was just absolutely in awe. This tiny being had come to life inside of my body, almost out of nowhere, as if from stardust and mystery. And now here he was, breathing these tiny, fast breaths. Remember how fast they breathe in the beginning? And I was so overwhelmed and just crushed by the magnitude of it. Crushed by the magnitude of love for him. And I felt all of this just from looking at the teeny tiny eyelashes. And this is the strangest story to tell because nothing happened. But I burst into tears. As I took him in that day, I realized that if Brian and I are lucky, if we're lucky, he will live to a good old age. And in his oldest years, as he approaches his 80s and 90s, he will need care, much like the care that he needed when he was a baby. And I realized that we wouldn't be there to care for him. And yes, it might have been completely informed by all of the uncontrollables and all the hormones, right, that were in my body, but also the feeling was important, and the feeling was real. The feeling was, who will care for him, and who will love him as he gets older? And then it's kind of nonsensical, but I thought, what am I going to do if no one's going to love him? I was really in it. My whole world had shifted in a completely new way when you arrived. Yeah. And I was integrating it into my worldview, into my purpose, into my sense of self, into my sense of my ability to control things. There's a whole lot more I can't control now. Everything changed. So when I look at our ancient sacred texts that the children acted out for us so beautifully today, I think about how Mary was pondering things in her heart, and it's this feeling that I think about. This feeling of overwhelmed by the magnitude. And it strikes me that things often get kind of lost in translation with these ancient texts. They get lost in literal translation, and then they get a little bit lost in kind of cultural translation and translation over time about what's actually happening. But the Greek word for ponder, which if you're like me, right, looking about it I'm pondering and I'm meditating, the Greek word for ponder literally means to throw together or to bring together. Two parties coming together and pulling them together, or maybe more than two, multiple ideas, integrating them together. She not only had a new baby, she was on the road. She was delivering this baby in a stable, delivering this child as a young 13-year-old girl, unmarried. She was receiving unexpected visitations, right? Angels are coming, and shepherds and wise ones, and they're all saying, this child is going to be important. And then, I don't know if you all recall this, but it's actual literal historic fact that King Herod, around this time, called for the death of newborn boys in the region. And so the biblical story that Mary and Joseph and Jesus left the region in exile to Egypt to save Jesus' life as a newborn baby is could be historical fact. And in the midst of all of this, she's thinking, my child is to be a Messiah of sorts, a liberator from this imperial rule. But at this moment in time, she was looking at his face, marveling at just the eyelashes, overwhelmed with the magnitude of love. At least that's what I imagine. She wasn't gently pondering these visions of stars and sheep. She was overwhelmed with love, and she was seeing really clearly into the future for her son. She knew he was growing up in the midst of a violent empire, in the midst of imperialism, in the midst of a movement for freedom, in the midst of a movement for love. She was making sense of all of this and integrating it. And she was reckoning with her own lack of control to be able to protect him. And she was right, she couldn't. 30 years later, there she was standing at the foot of the cross watching him die. So the truth is here that love came to Mary in the form of a child. But it didn't necessarily bring comfort. Love is not always soft and sweet. Love can call us to make sense of things, to put two opposing ideas together. Love calls us to integrate. Love brings us forward into courage and into truth-telling. Love is fierce and wild, and love is honest. So if love is here to come down at Christmas, it's not nostalgia that we're experiencing. It's love. It's all of us. And as I think of this story about Mary and her pondering and her possibly imagining her own child's future, she must have been if she was planning to flee, I wonder about how many of us are thinking about our children's future and our grandchildren's future. Or not just our children, right? Our children of this earth. All of our children are all of our children, right? You know, back to me being a Scrooge, I think about the morning after the election. And I sat down with my partner, or we sat down together, and we started to talk about our feelings and what we were feeling. The numbness, the shock, the embarrassment about the shock, the uncertainty, the fear. The loved ones that we worry about. Our own selves that we worry about. Our future is unknown in a way that, at least in my lifetime, feels very new to me. And then Brian said something that landed really solidly with me. Because we were kind of talking about, like, well, what do we do? How do we, where do we go from here? And Brian said, I'm looking for credible hope. For things that offer credible hope, something that feels durable, something that feels solid and sturdy. Something that maybe has some substance, right? That can emerge out of real relationship. That I can really hold on to in this moment. And Advent, is a season of waiting. It's a season of expectation, of uncertainty, and we are all in this season of waiting together right now. We don't know what to expect or what will come. But one thing I've been sitting with in my Scrooge-like status this year is, what exactly is it that we are waiting for? I know one thing is that I'm not waiting for a pretty story. I'm not waiting for nostalgia. That's not what I want. I want something credible and durable and real. The Christmas story is not a story of reassurance or comfort, softness. Those things are good. It's fine. I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, right? I love those things. I'm going to go home and we're going to do lots of Christmassy things that I can't talk about. But what we have here tonight in this story is a fragile newborn born to a 13-year-old girl who's about to run away to save her child's life. It is not a story of triumph. We have a heavenly host, which in the Greek is it's like a military word. But where's that host in the face of Roman army? So what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? I think that what we're waiting for is the birth of love. A reminder of this love story. Not necessarily the love between a parent and a child, but this is the beginning of a love story about a child who is coming into the world, who had a message that no one deserves to be left out, that no one deserves to die on the cross, that no one deserves to be ostracized just for who they are. In fact, that each one of us is deserving of love. Each and every single one of us, all of us in this room, all of us in this country, all of us across the world, all of us in the cosmos, deserving of love. That none of us cast the first stone. That blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are the poor in spirit. That this child will be the beginning of a story that we still remember now and talk about every single year. Showing us that love looks like healing, that love looks like feeding people, that love looks like teaching each other and being with each other. And that's it. It's so simple. That despite all the pain and the violence and oppression in this world, love is still right here. And love will keep coming. Every year. Every day. So now is the time for us to love our people. How? It's small. This is the thing, this is the place where I return to this incredible hope. The things that we can hold on to. I'm wondering if we can each if you turn inward and think about, where are the places that I know I offer love? You can remember that like an actual thing in the world. Where are the places that I am able to receive love? From who? Is it possible? These are the things. These are really the things that matter. I really believe this. All of us holding on to these tiny, itty-bitty little interactions where we can give and receive love. This is the seed that keeps us going, to keep working, to keep fighting, to believe and to know, to trust, rootedness, that we move through it. That love is for all of us. To remember that we're a part of this great human story, connected over time and over the cosmos to this ancient story of a child born to change the world and to shape change. So tonight I want us all to just really, really keep loving and keep remembering and reminding ourselves that it actually really does matter. Every teeny, tiny, little moment of love, it really does. It really does. Those are the pearls on the strand of life that keep us moving. Keep loving, keep loving, keep loving, keep loving. Can you tell I don't even know where I am anymore. Just keep loving. Keep loving.